What's up, Headless Horde? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk a little House of the Dragon Season 2. But first, if you're new to the channel, or is the first time seeing one of my videos, please consider subscribing, smash that like button, and don't forget to keep those heads on like I like to say. All of these things will definitely help me in this YouTube game. Now in today's video, we're going to be talking about all of the differences I was able to spot after finally finishing up Fire and Blood, a novel by George R.R. Martin. Now, I have not read past Season 2, so I don't know all the spoilers for the rest of the novel. I'm kind of reading as I go. But these are all the differences that I was able to find from House of the Dragon versus Fire and Blood. And there are a lot. We're starting off first with Episode 1, Blood and Cheese. In both the book and show, Daemon instigates the murder of Jaehaerys, but in the book he uses Mysaria to hire Blood and Cheese. Blood is also a former City Watch member in the book, not active as he's portrayed in the show. The show simplifies the murder scene, excluding Queen Alicent, who in the book is bound and gagged. Aegon and Helaena have 3 children in the book, adding complexity to the murder choice, whereas the show focuses on just the twins. Helaena chooses Maelor to die under duress, but Blood ends up killing Jaehaerys instead, which is way nastier in the book. Post-incident, Aegon personally kills Blood in the show. This differs from the book because he's actually not directly involved, and Cheese actually escapes the City Watch manhunt in the book as well, and all the rat catchers are not hung. Next, let's talk about Harrenhal. Daemon's time at Harrenhal is simplified in the book, where he quickly takes charge. The show adds elements like Daemon's visions, his desire for kingship, and interactions with characters like Alice Rivers and Oscar Tully, who are absent from this plot in the book. Daemon also doesn't ever meet Sir Alfred Broom like in the show, where he tries to convince him he should be the ruler. Finally, the show introduces the prophecy of the prince who was promised, and visions the future when Daemon sees the White Walkers, Daenerys and her 3 dragons, the 3-eyed raven, his dragon Caraxes dead, and the red flare in the sky, which I believe symbolizes the return of the dragons further in the timeline. The Greens. In the show, Otto Hightower is dismissed as Hand of the King by Aegon due to his reaction to the Rat Killer killings, whereas in the book he's dismissed for diplomatic failures and replaced by Criston Cole. Aemon reinstates Otto in the show, but in the book, Cole remains Hand. The show portrays Otto imprisoned, unlike in the book where he remains in King's Landing. The show has Tywin Lannister negotiating with the Triarchy instead of Otto, and Aemon becoming Prince Regent after a council debate, unlike the book where Alicent is never even considered. In the show's first 2 seasons, we have seen Helaena prophesize and be correct many times. Even in the season finale, when Helaena is talking to Aemon when he's trying to convince her to bring her dragon, Dreamfire, to battle, she refuses and tells him about his death. You can tell that Aemon is completely spooked by this. Probably one of the biggest differences from the book to the show is the fact that Rhaenyra visits King's Landing and talks to Alicent. They have a very in-depth conversation about the prophecy and also trying to solve this war without the fighting. This is an absolutely huge momentum changer, because what happens in the season finale, Alicent actually comes to Dragonstone to speak with Rhaenyra about solving the conflict, although she is the one who started the entire thing, along with Otto and Larys and Criston Cole. This obviously will have huge repercussions moving forward, because Alicent agrees to give her Aegon's head But as we see in one of the final shots of Season 2, Aegon and Larys are headed to Essos. The final thing that is different from the book is Aemon burns Sharppoint in the show to try to get back at the Blacks. But this is absent in the book. The Blacks. In episode 2 of House of the Dragon, the white worm known as Mysaria proves to be an ally to the Blacks after she warns them that Eric Cargill, Eric with an A, is in disguise as his brother, Eric with an E. In the book Fire and Blood, this warning never occurs. A matter of fact, Mysaria doesn't even meet Rhaenyra until much later in the story. It is also hinted in the books when Eric and Eric Cargill fight each other, they both end up killing one another. In the show, we see that Eric with an E wins the fight and ends up taking his own life by laying onto his sword. And again, in House of the Dragon, Mysaria not only becomes Rhaenyra's closest confidant, but also becomes a slight romantic interest. Once again, this does not occur in the book at all. Rhaenyra orders Daemon's daughter, Baela, to take to disguise a Moondancer in House of the Dragon. This results her in chasing Criston Cole into a forest. Again, none of this takes place, with Moondancer still being too small to ride at this stage of the story. Baela's sister, Rhaena, is ordered to take the younger Targaryen children and dragon eggs to the Vale in House of the Dragon. In the book, it's only Joffrey and Rhaena who take on this journey, with Aegon, the son of Daemon and Rhaenyra, but Viserys stays with Rhaenyra at Dragonstone. Because of this, the Vale isn't offered to, although still very young, dragons, Tyraxes and Stormcloud. In Fire and Blood, it's only Tyraxes. On the trip to the Vale, in the book and in the show, they are also having a supply of dragon eggs brought with them. The only difference here is that in House of the Dragon there were 4 eggs, and in Fire and Blood there are only 3. The other big difference between the series and the novel is that Jacaerys seems to have much more to do in the book. He is responsible for recruiting Corlys as Hand of the Queen, and not Rhaenyra and Baela. He also puts out a call for dragon seeds in the book, promising successful riders land, riches, and knighthoods, something Rhaenyra never does in the show until after the dragons are actually mounted. In one of the final shots of the season finale, it is implied that Rhaena will now be claiming her own dragon. This dragon is Sheepstealer. This is completely different from the book Fire and Blood because a girl named Nettles eventually tames this wild beast, not Rhaena. Dragon Seeds. The show introduces us to Alan and Adam Valerian, the bastard sons of Corlys. We are introduced to them very differently than in the book, and they also age them up and alter the recruitment and dragon taming stories. Rhaenys confrontation with Corlys about his legitimate sons is unique to the show only. In the book, she never actually finds out. Hugh Hammer and Ulf's origins are also changed. They are both in Dragonstone instead of King's Landing. Ulf lacks a distinctive white hair in the show, but in the book it is mentioned more than one time. One final difference with the character of Hugh Hammer is that in the book there is no mention to him having a family, and we also don't know who his mother is. The Battle at Rook's Rest. Battle of Rook's Rest has slight differences. In the show, Aegon's arrival is a surprise, while in the book, it's a planned ambush. In the show, Rhaenys makes a final bold attack and falls after Meleys is mortally wounded, whereas in the book, she is killed by dragonfire. Once again, another big difference is in the show, it seems like Aemond fired upon his brother, making his dragon crash to the ground. In Fire and Blood, there's absolutely no mention of this at all. So in the show, they have dramatically changed the relationship between Aegon and Aemond. In the season 2 finale, we hear Aegon state that his dragon Sunfire is dead. Well, in the book, this obviously does not happen, but I'm going to refrain from saying anything else due to spoilers. I think it'll be very interesting to see what happens with this part of the plot. So those are most of the major differences between the book Fire and Blood and the show House of the Dragon. Again, I think there's a lot that the show has changed. Now, the reason why I think this is okay, and I don't personally have an issue with it, is because the book is written from the point of view of 3 different characters. Now, this could just be another way to look at it. And maybe this is actually what really happened, because we do get the point of view of multiple characters in the show, just like we did in Game of Thrones. It's not a story being told to us, we are watching the story unfold from the view of the characters. So I don't have a major problem with the book acting as almost like a history book, where, you know, when you were in school, there's things that we were told, there's things that we had learned about the history of like the United States or the history of a war, and we find out later as adults that it actually was not the way it went down. And that is kind of the way I am looking at this, because I'm not going to be one of those people who are mad over them not staying true to what is actually in the book. As long as we still get to the ending, it doesn't matter which way we go. So for me, I don't have a real problem with this. Thank you so much for watching this video. Guys, let me know down in the comments, are you okay with the changes? Do you wish they would follow the text more? What is your feelings about this? What do you think was the biggest change from the books? Don't forget to smash that like, keep those heads on, and I'll see you guys in the next video.